We supposed to have this tutorial last week, but due to the challenges I have to postpone it to today. I lost my mom, and so we have to go there and do the necessary thing. So sorry for that. If you have the opportunity to be hearing me, I want you to please pray for my mom, my dad. They are all gone. If you are a Muslim, you can help me recite Kulu Allah 3. And if you are non-Muslim, just pray your normal prayer for me. And we that we are remaining, may we stay in this life to enjoy this life. And to every members that join me in praying this prayer, may we all be successful in life, and may we all see our grandchildren before we leave. Thank you, and welcome to tutorial and examination tips for NTI PGD students by No Big D Academy on research method in education, and the course code for this one is 708. So thank you. The person in charge, which is the lecturer in charge of this course, is a woman of integrity. When she's around, she's not encouraged. She doesn't encourage lateness to class, and she's trying to follow the handout page by page. So if you are using her handout or her material, let us try to be following everything that is teaching us page by page, so that we will not have any issue in terms of exam and the rest. As we all know, our main objective is always on to cover everything at all that we can remember. So the agenda for today's first tutorial is to discuss what is the research method in education, concept of education, variables in education, educational research, process of educational research and report writing, and step-by-step guide for educational research for beginners. So if you are just joining us and you want to be receiving notification, I will beg you or urge you to please subscribe to this channel. You can comment, you can equally like what we are doing, so that you don't miss any update. So we are starting with what is research method in education. So before we go to the meaning of research method, let's briefly look at what a research means. What is a research? Let us briefly look at it. A research may be defined as a systematic and objective analysis and reporting of control observations with a view of arrive at development of generalization, principles, theories, or explanation of phenomena. So this particular definition is in our textbook, so you can go and read it and have more understanding. But according to me and the way I understand this, I will only pick some little ambiguous definition, ambiguous words. Like the definition talk about systematic. So what it means by systematic is that this means following a plan or method step by step. So you are not just following one thing, but you are following already made plan or already made step, so that you arrive at the or you arrive or achieve a particular goal or objectives. So we made mention of objectives here is that research is based on fact and not feelings, and being fair or not letting personal opinions affect the result. So when you are carrying out a research, you are not allowed to be carrying out your research with feelings. You have to drop your feelings. So if you know that you are not good at that, it's better you don't even carry out that particular research. So if you are carrying out a research, you should have that quality of you should be able to arrive, or your research should be based on facts, and you are not expected to be having feelings, and you have to be fair enough, not letting personal opinion affect your result. So let's take note of that, and that is the meaning of that objective that I'm trying to explain here. Then we talk about reporting of controlled observations. How do we report? How do we control it? So we normally report by writing or telling others about what was carefully observed in a planned way. This means that your research should be unwritten, or except if it is in group, that when you carry out the research, then you have to like explain to those people that is going to write it down for you. But in this case, we are not in group in time of our research, because we are given an individual project to carry out the research on it. So whatever you are doing, whatever research you are carrying out, you should be writing it down. Then later you organize them according to the format they will give us. So with a view of arrive at to find out something, then we came across development of generalizations, principles, theories, or explanation of phenomena. So doing research carefully to find rules, principles, and theories that explain things that happens in the world. So that is all what a research is all about. When you are talking about phenomena, phenomena is something that happens in nature or life that we want to understand. Like e.g., we are carrying a research that is talking about rain. How does rain occur? How does earthquakes occur? Then that is what we mean by phenomena, something that happens in nature. So, and again, when we talk about theories, a theories means that a big ideas or explanation based on many studies and observation. You cannot just arrive at a theories except you have already studied some authors. Many authors have already carried out those things, and they arrive at the same answer or close to the same solution or objective. That is why you can now decide to tell people that this is a theory. And as I said, a theory is a big idea or explanation based on many studies or observation. What you study and what you observe with through many scholars. So those are the things you can call a theories. Then when we make mention of principle, a principle is a basic truth or rule that explain how something works. Then we talk about generalization, is a general rule or idea made after studying, like e.g. cats like to sleep. We have already studied the cats. We have already studied many cats, and we are now discovering that cat loves to sleep. Cat likes to sleep. So these are generalization rules or generalization ideas that many people have already observed and they agree on. This thing, before they can generalize it, they have already carried some research. They have already carried some studies. They have already carried some ideas. They have looked at the thing thoroughly before they can now generalize it as this is it. And every other person that look at it very well, they will equally recognize that this particular thing that this person talk is true. So that is what we mean by generalization. Then research, again, is a careful way of studying things step by step, using facts, watching things closely, and writing down the results to find general rules, ideas, or explanation about words. So what it means is that, for example, imagine a scientist wants to know if plants grow better in sunlight or shade. So there are some steps by steps research process so that they need to take. They can put one in the sun and put one in the under shade. Then they'll keep on monitoring it, then to know and make a conclusion that the plant outside the sun grow faster than the one under the shade. Now we have step-by-step research process. What are the step-by-step research process? We have number one, systematic. That is the scientific plan. The study by choosing two plants of the same family. They will carry two plants of the same family. That is scientific. That's number one step. We normally take that the scientific plants. Plan the study and plan and study the choosing two plants. So after that, you're now trying to like look for the objective. That is the second step. That is the scientific does not go but test both plants. Does not guess. Scientific does not guess, and as a researcher, we are not expected to be guessing. We are expected to test and observe whatever we are trying to do. And then we have control observations. So after objectives, after we have already test both the plants, then we are like to like control the observation. That is, one plant is kept in the sun and the other is kept in under the shade. That is, we are to carefully watching under set condition. So the next step is to analyze the analysis. That is, carefully studying the results. After 2 weeks, the scientific measures how much each plant has grown. And number fifth step is to reporting. That is, sharing the results. The scientific writes down the findings if the one in the sun grew taller than the plant in the shade. So that is how it is. Then next step, number 6, is generalization. That is, making a rule from findings. The scientific may conclude that plants grow better in sunlight than in shade. Then number 7 is principle. Basic rules that explain how something works, like sunlight help plants make food through photosynthesis. And number 8 step is theory. That is, big idea that explain many cases. Then number 9 is phenomena. That is, understanding things in nature, explaining why plants grow better in the sun. So that is how we carried out research. We have to like do a systematic way, that is step by step, then objective. You control the observation, you analyze, you report, you generalize, you put principle and theories and phenomena. So those are the kind of steps we normally take. Now we can now start talking about research method. Research methods. What is a research method? A research method in education are always researchers. So they are researchers study and understand teaching, learning, and a research method in education are ways researchers study, understand teaching, learning, and school to improve education. So we research to study and understanding, teaching and learning, and also to improve education in school. So we have different method used or type of research method. We have like 5 types of research method. We have the quantitative, we have the qualitative, we have the mixed, we have the experimental, and we have the action research method. So the first one is quantitative. What does it mean is that it focuses on numbers and statistics. E.g., when you are using tests, you are using scores to measure student performance. That kind of research, it is called quantitative. And we have another research method. This is qualitative method of research. This is the using of interview observations, like watching how students interact in group to know the study opinion and behaviors. So when you are using this kind of method, you are doing qualitative method. Then we have another one which is called mixed method. That is research combine both approach to get a full pictures. Then number 4 is experimental research. That is testing how new teaching method or material to see if they improve learning. That is experimental. If you are trying to use this kind of method, you can call it experimental research. Then number 5 is action research method. This allows teachers to study and solve problems in their own. That is, research method helps teachers improve their teaching, assist schools in creating better learning environments, and guide policymakers in making informed decisions about education. So this is what research method does. So if you choose to be a researcher, you should be expecting this kind of work. You have to research in order to make some other people's feel better. Then we're moving on to concept of education. So when you have this kind of words or sentence, what comes to your mind first is to split it. We already know the meaning of education. Now we need to know what is the meaning of concept. A concept is an expression of an abstraction formed from generalization. A concept is an expression of an abstraction formed from generalization of particulars. So, for example, weight. This expression is from observation of certain behavior or weight. So, when you say when you say general idea now, general idea is based on what we observed, e.g., learning. You notice that students are learning, and learning is an idea we observed, but it is broad and not directly measured. So under it, we have something like construct. It is a concept that has been formulated so that it can be used in science. It is defined so that it can be observed and measured. So a specific idea that we define and measure, e.g., a test score to measure learning. And to measure learning, you create a test. The test score becomes a way to define and measure the concept of learning. So that is what this particular concept of education is all about. So let's continue from variable. So variables, as I said earlier, so it can be defined as a property. And what I mean by property here is anything that can be measured and that can take on different values. It's something that can change or vary in a study. It can have different values. So properties like weight, speed, height. So these are the kind of variables we are talking about. And we have types of variables. We have like many types of variables, like independent variables, dependent variables, control variables, extraneous variables, categorical variables, and continuous variables. So let's explain this one by one. When I say independent variables, so this factor, the factor that is changed or controlled. When I say changed, that means it's something that can be adjusted in an experimental. So when you're carrying experience and you have a values or variables that you can change, that you can manipulate, we call it independent variable. For example, if you give students study methods that if you give students study method, the study method is independent variables. Method like lecture, group discussion, or online videos. It's an independent variables and can be changed. Then we have another variable which is called dependent variables. The dependent variables are the outcome that is measured. When you say measured, it means observes. The outcome that is observed or measured in response to changes in the independent variables, e.g., the student test score. Because the dependent on the study, that is, the teacher gives a test after each method and record the score to know that this method is good for them or not. So, and being doing that, their values, their variables can change. And those things, the outcome that you see after you give them or you perform that experiment is what we call dependent variable. Those are the variables we depend on, and those are the variables we are going to use for our result. And we'll talk about number 3, control variables. Those are the factors that are kept constant to ensure a fair test. Control variables, they are factors that are kept constant to ensure a fair test. For example, all students study for the same amount of time. So this particular factor now, they are kept constant because teachers will gather the students at the same time to teach them. So there are factors that are kept constant to ensure a fair test, so that nobody will have complaint that maybe it's because my own class is in the morning, that's why I fail. So the teachers make sure that everybody in that class at that particular moment, they are being taught at the same times. And those kind of variables that we look at here is called control variables. And we have another variable which is called extraneous variables. That is the unwanted factors that might affect the dependence variable, e.g., a noisy environment that is affecting test score. So this one, they are unwanted factors. And we have many unwanted factors in school, like when people are making noise, when when anything happen, like maybe someone bring a phone to the class. All these kind of factors, they are unwanted and they can affect the test scores. So, and we have another variables which is categorical variables. In categorical variables, a variables with different category but no numerical values. Like for example, you have gender, you have blood group. So these are the categorical. When you are categorizing people based on their genders, based on their blood group, based on their nationality, that is categorical variables. We call them categorical variables. And we have number 6, which is the continuous variables, a variables that can take any numerical values within a range, that is e.g. height, weight, and temperature. So among these kind of variables now, we are asked to choose a topic to write on. And the best topic we are asked to work on is independent variables. That is the factor that can that is changed or controlled. This factor, you can control it in an experimental. That is, for example, I told us before that if you give students study method, that is, you are using any different kind of methods to know which of the one that will suit to get your dependent variables, that is to get your result. So that is what we mean by independent variables. We have looked at the variables, the types of variables, and many more. So we'll be moving on to educational research. Again, educational research is a systematic study, as we said earlier, of educational teaching method, learning process, and the factors that affect education. So this educational research, it helps improving teaching, learning, and school policy using evidence-based findings. Systematic study educational research follows a structured and organized approach using methods like experiment, survey, and observation. Study of education. Then in this educational research, we have types of educational research. Number 1 is historical, number 2 is survey, and number 3 is experimental. So we have these 3 types of educational research. It depends on the one you are trying to use. So if you are using historical, it means that this particular, when you are using historical is a kind of research that is based on oral evidence. Who said it? Is Molly, 1978. He said an historical research is based on oral evidence, and this examine past evidence, trends, or educational policy to understand their impact on the present and the future. For example, now you are studying the evolution of teaching methods. This particular method now, it has been happening for long, and you want to like carry the research on it. So this kind of research now, it is called historical because it has happened before. Then number 2 is survey research. Can also be called a descriptive research. That is, this collect data from a large group of people through questionnaire, interview, or observation to understand opinion, attitudes, or behaviors. For example, conducting a survey on student learning preference. So this kind of research method, you have to like come in form of interview. You have to come in form of questionnaire so that people can give you some answers in your survey, then you record it. Then the number 3 is experimental research. This involves conducting experiments for research purpose. For research process, that this involves manipulating variables in a controlled environment to establish cause and effect relationship. For example, testing how different teaching techniques affect student performance. So this kind of this thing now, if you are doing this kind of research, you are doing experimental research. Then we have basic method of research. Basic method of research. We have basic method of research, which are the descriptive method and case and feed method. So descriptive method describes systematically a situation or an area of interest factually and accurately. This particular kind of descriptive is talking about maybe population census studies. And case and feed method is studying intensively the current background status and environmental interaction of a given society unit. So in this case, that means you are studying a child whose IQ is above average, but having severe learning disabilities. So these are the kind of basic method of research method that we have. Then we have characteristics of research method. So we are still in educational research method. So we have the characteristics of research method, and these characteristics we have like 5 or more. So number one characteristics, it is empirical. What do you mean by it is empirical? Is that it involves collections of data that can be used to draw conclusion. That is what we mean by empirical. Collection of data that can be used to draw conclusion. That is what has been examined and generally accepted. Then we have it is theoretical. We know that research should be theoretical because it aims at building of relevant theory that can explain certain phenomena among variables in education situation. It is also cumulative. When scientific are trying to build on existing facts and theories to help in refining and extending existing principles. That is why we say it is cumulative. Then we have another one that it is non-ethical. It does not consider issues. Scientific always attempt to find the logical explanation for any actions and avoid value judgment without seeking to answer questions such as whether an action is right or wrong. It is verifiable. Among the characteristics is that it is verifiable. A scientific investigation leads to verifiable results. So it is verifiable. If your research is not verifiable, that means it's not a research. If your research is not is ethical, it's not a research. If it is not cumulative, it is not a research. It's supposed to be theoretical, and it's supposed to be also be empirical. So we now move on to the process of education research and report writing for beginners. So we have the process of educational research and report writing. So this is a step-by-step way of finding answer to questions about education and writing down the findings in a clear and organized format. Sorry. What is educational research? We always ask this question. And to me, to this one is when you study or investigate something related to learning, teaching, or schooling. And then report writing is when you write out what you did and what you find in a proper format so others can understand it. Example, why some students do not like maths. And you are given a research to do that. Why some student does not like maths. This is a problem, and you are asked to carry out the research to find out why is it that you want to know why, so that you can help some other students to solve the problem. So when you are asked this question, this particular question is a research question, and when you collect answer, it is called data. That means you are collecting data. And when you write what you found, it is called report. So in research, this is actually what we do. We research, we collect data, and we report. So after our project now, we'll be given we are asked to be writing the report. That is what we call project material. Sorry. So let me run through some steps before we call it a day. And this is where we are going to stop. So if you are given any research, we have some steps that you need to follow. Then number one step is identify a problem or topics. So you have to get a problem. Your research work must solve a problem. And that is that is when they will ask us to go and choose an area in education that interests us. That means choose a topic in education that interests us. So that is number one stage in research. Then this particular thing now, for example, is what is the impact of online learning on student performance? This is a research question. For those of us that are still finding project topic, you can do this. What is the impact of online learning on students' performance? So this is an independent question, independent variables. Then step 2 is that you have to review of related literature. You have to get those people that have worked on a similar something. So this particular step now, you'll be reading books, articles, and past research to understand what has already been studied. So it will help you to define your research question carefully. So number 3 step is formulate research questions or hypothesis. We formulate research question or hypothesis, that is, ask specific, clear, and researchable questions. For example, does online learning improve test score compared to classroom learning? You ask questions so that you can be able to work and get the facts that you want. Then step 4 is that you choose a research design. Decide the type of research. That is it qualitative? That is, you want to use interview or observation method? Do you want to use quantitative? That is, you want to use survey and experiment? Or you want to use mixed method? That means both. You want to use both qualitative or quantitative method. Then number five step is that you collect data. That is, you can use tools like questionnaires, interview, observation, and test to collect data. Then we have number 6, that analyze the data. After you collect the data, you use analytic for numbers or coding for words and themes to make sense to the data. Tools like Excel, Google Sheet. So those are the kind of tools we can adopt to analyze our data. So at the end of the day, when you collect your data, you'll be using table, you'll be using chart, you'll be using pie chart to analyze it. So number 7 is that you have to interpret the results. Yeah.